All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Gonna be touching on the top prop bets in both PrizePicks and Underdog today. But first, as always, let's get into a quick recap of yesterday. Yesterday was another solid day, 4 for 6 on the day for the bet slip of the day. All in all, though, very strong from the 9 to 5 cheat sheet. Had myself a very good day. Hopefully, you guys did as well. We'll say Bismack Biyombo getting 5 turnovers, extremely tilting. And then Desmond Bain just missing on points. Kind of, oh well. That was a good EV bet that we had. Those are going to miss, right? The line should have been set at 25. It's all right. That's kind of a good point, though. Like, why I like to favor fantasy score a little bit, because he crushed yesterday. He just got it done other ways. We'll say we did have a bad beat as well again yesterday. It's starting to get very tilting, the amount of bad beats lately. So I said yesterday that we had a lot of decent stacking opportunities if the game stayed close. That was kind of the bet there. This one was one that was tilting, given the fact that Fred VanVleet wasn't on any sort of injury report in terms of potentially sitting. He sat out, and I will say, I think Sengun really easily gets there if he gets those last 5 or so minutes. I was a little bit shocked that he didn't get a little bit more run at the end of the game. Definitely felt like a bad beat there. If VanVleet's active, obviously that keeps the game closer for a little bit longer, and so a little bit annoying there. Felt very unlucky, but all in all, again, yes, very good day. Hopefully we can do that again today. I do want to start with some college basketball props, because yesterday, again, those went 2 for 2. Those have been crushing lately. I will say, probably due to have a bad day here soon, but we have a pretty good edge thus far. And so, yeah, looking at guys right now, we have a few where we are gaining a pretty good edge. We got Joey Toussaint for under 24.5 for the PrizePicks line. Okay, and we can see that it is a little bit of a strange line, because his points, rebounds, and assists, although not a heavy favorite, it is favoring the over points, rebounds, and assists. To me, that's telling me one of two things. Either he gets a lot of turnovers, or he's not going to get a lot of blocks and steals. And so that's probably what it is there. From there, we got Brandon Carlson for under 32.5 for a fantasy score, and we can see the projection data and also the average sportsbook line data would be suggesting the under there, so that is seemingly going to be a good prop bet for us. Then we got Sebastian Mack for over 26.5. Again, both data points that we're pulling in for that are suggesting that the over should be the way to go. So we got 3 seemingly good college basketball props. And just so you guys can see this one, yeah, Mack has been over this 3 straight games. Love to see that. Probably a little bit of a blowout concern, slightly there. This one has about a 53% chance to hit. You can see the tightness there, and then this is one where the under was favored. Again, you can kind of see very tight line here. He's been able to get the over lately. If you guys don't love that, by all means, don't have to place that one. And then yes, Carlson does seem to be maybe somewhat a little bit hit or miss. Maybe there's maybe potential blowout run. I haven't really looked at this at all. But really only one game where he's crushed the over, 2 tight ones, and then the rest not really all too close per se. So seemingly a good one there as well. And so guys, I do have to do this video a little bit quicker than I typically would like to. So I just want to show you guys kind of the starting lineups and where we could, potentially go. So for Portland, we know that Malcolm Brogdon is going to be back. And I do think we have a little bit of another game stacking opportunity here with Malcolm Brogdon, potentially DeAndre Ayton, and Jeremy Grant. I do think DeAndre Ayton's fantasy score is pretty low here. Like, as long as he is getting the minutes, and obviously we were hoping that he does get those minutes, I think that he should be able to crush. Now, the concern is that the data doesn't like this over, so that's a little bit of concern. The projection data would like it. We look at the projected minutes, 31. If he gets that, he will get pretty much. I know it's a more difficult matchup. That's the concern there, but all in all, that was one that stood out to me. And then continuing on, looking at the next games, we know that Jalen Smith is going to be out. That's going to lead to Obi Toppin getting some more run. I don't know if that's actually a good thing. Probably Isaiah Jackson is going to be someone that gets more run as well. We do need to monitor the Miami Heat. If Jimmy Butler's out, even if Highsmith's out, Jaime Hawkins is probably going to be someone I'm looking to go back to again on this slate. I will say Bam going against Indy, he should be able to crush regardless of if Jimmy Butler's active or not. If Jimmy Butler's out, I really expect Bam to crush. Continuing on for Charlotte, they are still very banged up. I mentioned the last game without LaMelo Ball that Brandon Miller was going to be someone that really sees the biggest increase in production, and we did see that happen. Then we look at for the Brooklyn Nets, we probably are going to be wanting to target Nick Claxton here. The opening lines came out very low, and I kind of hammered that. They have since taken those lines away. I'm very interested as to why. For what it's worth, this was the bet slip that I ran out with it. Like, I don't know, Nick Claxton against Charlotte should be able to crush. I mean, that's a thing. We've been targeting bigs against Charlotte, so that's something that I think I like. Then just continuing on, looking at the injuries here, Bucks are going to be without Connaughton and Crowder, so Malik Beasley probably still going to have a decent role. Looking at the Bulls, Levine, DeRozan currently game time decisions. Again, if one of those sits, really Patrick Williams is the guy that gets the biggest bump we have seen. And also if Alex Caruso sits, like he's going to be the player that gets the biggest bump. The biggest point of emphasis I have on the slate is going to be like what to do with Anthony Edwards potentially most likely sitting, as well as Jaden McDaniels being out. And I'll mention that in a second here. We also know that Chris Paul and Gary Payton are going to be out. That's just going to shift more use to Curry tonight. Maybe a little bit of Wiggins and Clay, but I think it's just going to be Curry, and then maybe one of the backups get a little bit more run. So do want to mention again this injury situation here for Minnesota. Also real quickly as well, Jalen Johnson being out again. I think we're looking at Bay and Hunter again. Those are the two players that get the biggest bump. So yes, now I'll get into Minnesota. So just looking at the data with Anthony Edwards off the court, who gets the biggest bump? Actually, Milton gets some run, which is kind of interesting, noteworthy, I would say. He has the most minutes, but then I think the player we probably, in terms of props betting, we might want to go on the most is actually Kyle Anderson. I'm hoping we get some lines on him. He has the second most minutes. I think we can expect him to get closer to like 30 minutes or so in this game. You look at his data, it's about 14 points per 36, 15.4 rebounds, 5.6 assists, and then averages about 2 blocks and steals combined. Only 9 shot attempts. That's always the concern with him, is low shot attempts, but he typically can get to the free throw line, averages about 5 free throws per 36 with Anthony Edwards off the court. His usage rate is about 18%, averages about 32 fantasy points per 36. And then from there, Karl-Anthony Towns does get a pretty big bump in his usage as well. Actually, like a 14% bump is Anthony Towns' usage rate with Ant-Man off the court. It does make sense, and this can be a smash spot for him. You're looking at his production. It's a 38% usage rate, which is massive. Pretty good sample size as well. Averages 50 fantasy points per 36, 32.2 points, 9.6 rebounds, 1.7 assists, also a block and a steal combined. So he should be able to crush, especially in this matchup. But you also have Rudy Gobert, who averages about 14 points per 36, 15.6 rebounds, 1.4 assists, also almost 3 steals and blocks combined per 36. And then his usage rate is like 20%, which for big for him, that's a lot. And then he averages about 40 fantasy points per 36. So those two players are definitely going to get a big bump. The issue is right now we're not getting those props, which is definitely annoying. But again, this is kind of like literally the last 4 nights I've given you guys out pretty good props in this same situation. Walker Kessler last night, Jaime Jaquez the night before, Jalen Duren the night before that, and I forget what the other one, Derek White the night before that. So those two should theoretically be in a good spot. I'm very interested to see where those lines come out. But with that being said, let's go and just take a peek at what the data sheet is telling us are the best prop. And so right now it's going to be Darius Garland for over fantasy score, and then you also have Max Strus for under fantasy score. Let's take a quick peek at both of those. And so I do think, again, like I don't mind the idea of doing a Portland stack. Like, yes, the game is projected to be a blowout, but if it stays close, aka if Malcolm Brogdon keeps it close, helps keep it close, I think it makes sense. Like, I'm okay with that. And looking at Garland, guys, he has crushed the last 2 games. He's expected to crush again tonight. So this line does seem to be, potentially a little bit too low. We also have Max Strus for under, which, I kind of agree with. With everyone back for Cleveland, he is someone that does take a slight hit in his production, and it really isn't the best matchup. Now, this game it's tough because, like, he does still have the spike weeks. Like, we clearly see that, or spike games. We clearly see that, but definitely is much more inconsistent than when Garland or when Donovan Mitchell are out. Don't love it, but it's a decent one. Obi Toppin for under 17.4 points, rebounds, and assists. I'd be fine with that one. We got Cameron Johnson for under fantasy score. Again, another one that, I don't know if I necessarily love. Like, really, these other two, I don't actually love too much. Cameron Johnson for under 26 or 28.5 for a fantasy score, and then Josh Giddey for over 26.5. Like, you don't know where Giddey's at mentally right now with all the stuff that's off the court that's going on. And he's not getting that much run. Like, he's not getting 30 minutes. And so, last game, he probably does get his over fantasy score if he gets more assists, but he's just been inconsistent. And I don't want to trust that. Sure, it's a seemingly good matchup against the Lakers, but all in all, it just feels too thin. And then, just looking at Cameron Johnson, and then also I do think Nick Claxton, I want to just point out those two. Cameron Johnson just been, very consistent. And so that is, to me, where I'm like, I don't know if I exactly want to run the over there because he has been pretty darn consistent, especially since he's come back, especially lately. In games that he's gained 30 minutes or so, he's getting there, and that's a concern. And then Nick Claxton as well. He's also been getting around 30 minutes, especially in games that stay close. He's someone that can get some blocks. And so, that fantasy score was seemingly too low because he's not getting too many turnovers as well. Now, the data didn't agree. The data actually really likes Mark Williams on the other side of that for over his fantasy score, and then Mikal Bridges for under 38.5 for his fantasy score. So I think we personally have a decent opportunity to stack that game. And then again, real quick, I do think Brandon Miller, again, if this game stays close, and that's the bet, it's an 8-point spread here. If that game does stay close, I think Brandon Miller, with that increased usage with ball off the court, he should be able to get there. You know, against the Knicks, barely got there. Give him a couple more minutes. I think we're fine with that. Mark Williams, I'm fine with as well. I expect him to crush. You know, he's just been getting a lot of blocks and steals. I like that one. And so right now they're not giving us Mikal Bridges and also Nick Claxton. They took those two off. Something to monitor there. And then just real quickly on the NFL video, I did mention that I would be showing the fantasy score props once they're added in there. The data really hates the overs for all the players in this game, which I find fascinating. I don't know, probably just a little bit of a stay away. But again, I probably will run out a little bit of a stack like that under fantasy score, just hoping that those hit. But all in all, probably a little bit too thin. So let's go ahead and get to the bet of the day. And so for the bet of the day, just running out the best NBA props that I see with it, and then also just using the college basketball props as well with it, seems to be, you know, a decent edge that we're getting there. That being said, guys, I do expect to have, you know, potentially a bad day today. Like it's been 3 very solid days in a row. Typically speaking, you know, just natural regression, you're not going to always crush. So a little bit of a concern there. But that is going to be all for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. Make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell as well. If you guys want access to the tools that you saw in this video, head over to 9to5sports.com, and it's available for just $10 a month. Thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.